You ever notice how the loudest people in the room usually have the least to say, the ones constantly talking about their plans, their dreams, their next move, but never actually moving? Let me tell you something. True power doesn't make noise. It doesn't need to. Real transformation happens in silence, when no one's watching, when you're focused, disciplined, and quietly building yourself into someone they can't ignore. You see, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop giving people access to your energy, something shifts. You begin to realize you don't owe anyone your story, your validation, or your peace. The world will always have opinions, but opinions don't define outcomes. Focus on yourself, stay silent, work in the dark, because when your results speak, trust me, everyone will listen. Silence has always been misunderstood. Most people see it as passivity, as if being quiet means being powerless, but silence, when used with intention, is one of the most powerful tools you can possess. It gives you control over your emotions, your reactions, and the energy you allow into your life. When you choose silence, you're not surrendering, you're strategizing, you're giving yourself space to see things clearly while everyone else is caught up in noise. The loudest person in the room may grab attention for a moment, but the one who observes quietly is the one who truly understands what's going on. In a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, to be heard, to prove themselves, silence becomes your edge. You learn to hold your composure when others lose theirs. You don't rush to defend yourself or explain your every move. You stop feeding into unnecessary conversations that drain your focus and shift your energy away from your purpose. Silence allows you to analyze before reacting, to think before speaking, to see the motives behind people's words and actions. It teaches you patience and discernment, which are both critical forms of power. When you stay silent, you start to understand people in ways they can't even comprehend. You notice their patterns, their tone, their intentions. You learn that not everything requires a reaction, and not everyone deserves one. The less you speak, the more others reveal themselves. Silence becomes a mirror that reflects truth, because people often expose their character in the space you create by not filling it with noise. Power doesn't come from controlling others, it comes from controlling yourself. In silence is self-control at its highest form. Every time you choose silence over confrontation, you're building emotional discipline. Every time you walk away instead of arguing, you're proving to yourself that your peace is more valuable than being right. The world will constantly test you. People will provoke you, gossip about you, and challenge your calm. But your silence tells them something words never could. You're not operating on their level. You've evolved beyond the need for validation or drama. Silence speaks volumes because it shows you're focused on what truly matters. Your mission, your growth, your evolution. Think about how much power is wasted in explaining yourself to people who have already made up their minds. Think about how much energy you lose trying to convince others to understand your journey. Silence frees you from that trap. You no longer seek approval, and that's when real confidence is born, because confidence doesn't shout, it's felt. It's grounded, unshaken, and secure. When you walk in silence, your actions become your voice. You let results, discipline, and consistency do the talking. And when you finally make your move, it hits differently because nobody saw it coming. Silence gives you control over timing, and timing is everything. The most successful people don't broadcast every thought, every plan, every step they take. They understand that silence creates mystery, and mystery creates respect. You don't need to tell the world what you're doing. Let them see it when it's done. That's power. When people can't predict your next move, they can't interfere with it. The less you say, the more they wonder. The more they wonder, the stronger your presence becomes. Silence isn't about hiding. It's about positioning yourself strategically so your voice, when you choose to use it, carries undeniable weight. Protecting your energy is one of the most powerful decisions you can make in life. Too often, people give away their peace, their time, and their focus to things that do not deserve it. They explain themselves to people who will never understand them, argue with those committed to misunderstanding them, and react to situations that do not deserve a response. But the moment you stop doing that, the moment you decide to protect your energy, you take back control. You stop allowing the world to drain you, and you start channeling your strength into places that truly matter. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it's survival. It's understanding that not every battle deserves your attention, not every comment deserves an answer, and not every person deserves access to you. When you learn to observe instead of react, you change the entire dynamic of your environment. You begin to see people's intentions instead of just their words. You recognize manipulation, attention, seeking, and emotional games for what they are. You stop feeling the need to defend your choices or prove your worth. Protecting your energy means you are choosing peace over chaos, focus over distraction, and growth over drama. You start to realize that silence is not avoidance, it's mastery. The more you protect your space, the more powerful your energy becomes, because it's no longer being scattered among people and situations that don't serve you. There will always be people who try to pull you into their storms. They thrive on reaction, on knowing they can get under your skin, on feeling powerful by disrupting your calm. That's why emotional control is so critical. When you don't give them what they want, your anger, your explanation, your attention, you disarm them completely. You rob them of their power. Protecting your energy isn't about shutting people out. It's about being selective with who gets to come in. Your peace is sacred, and not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people only come to feed off your light, and once you understand that, you'll stop feeling guilty for walking away. The discipline to stay silent is the discipline to protect your mind. When you stop reacting, you start thinking. You start hearing your own intuition louder than the opinions of others. Protecting your energy also means setting emotional boundaries. You don't let people's moods dictate your mood. You don't let their negativity become your burden. You learn to say no without guilt, to walk away without explanation, and to stand firm without aggression. You start to understand that the less you explain, the more peace you maintain. Silence becomes your filter, and energy becomes your currency. You spend it wisely, not wastefully. It's not about isolation, it's about alignment. When you protect your energy, you start attracting better things. You attract peace because you are peaceful. You attract focus because you are disciplined. You attract strength because you are grounded. Protecting your energy creates an invisible boundary that tells the world, I'm not available for nonsense. You are no longer reacting to everything that comes your way, because not everything deserves your reaction. This is how you keep your power. You stop chasing validation and start prioritizing peace, and in that stillness, you become unstoppable. Because when your energy is protected, your focus sharpens, your confidence grows, and your results speak louder than any argument ever could. Discipline and self-focus are the purest forms of self-respect. When you commit to becoming the best version of yourself, you're not doing it for anyone's approval. You're doing it because you know your potential deserves better. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be, and the people who reach that next level aren't the most talented, they're the most consistent. They show up even when no one is watching, even when motivation fades, even when it's uncomfortable. Discipline is how you prove to yourself that you can be trusted with your own goals. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build confidence. Every time you follow through, you strengthen your identity. And that identity becomes unshakable because it's built on action, not words. When you choose discipline, you choose long-term gain over short-term comfort. You stop making decisions based on how you feel and start making them based on who you want to become. That's what self-respect looks like in action. It's doing what's necessary, not what's easy. Most people let their emotions control them. They procrastinate, they make excuses, they blame circumstances. But disciplined people take full ownership of their path. They don't wait for perfect timing or motivation. They create momentum through consistency. You wake up early even when you don't want to. You say no to distractions because you know what's at stake. You stay focused even when no one claps for you. That's the level of self-respect that separates those who dream from those who execute. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're committed. You can't pour into others if you're empty, and you can't lead if you're lost. Self-focus means prioritizing your growth, your healing, and your goals without apologizing for it. You stop chasing validation because you realize that true fulfillment comes from within. The world will always have opinions about what you should do, but discipline gives you tunnel vision. It keeps you locked in on your purpose regardless of noise or doubt. You stop seeking approval and start demanding results from yourself. That's power, that's control, that's maturity. Discipline is also freedom. It might sound contradictory, but it's the truth. The more disciplined you are, the freer you become. You're not enslaved by bad habits, distractions, or emotional impulses. You gain control over your time, your health, your mindset. When you set boundaries with yourself, when you say, "This is what I'm doing and nothing will pull me away from it," you're respecting your future self. You're creating structure that supports your success. Discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It protects your dreams from being destroyed by inconsistency. It protects your vision from being blurred by distraction. There's power in doing things quietly with focus and consistency. You don't need to announce your grind. You don't need to tell people your every move. When you're truly disciplined, your lifestyle speaks for you. You begin to radiate a certain energy. People can see it in the way you walk, talk, and carry yourself. You exude confidence because you've earned it through repetition and resilience. And when challenges come, you don't crumble. You've trained yourself for it. That's what discipline does. It prepares you for the storm long before it arrives. Self-focus is the foundation, discipline is the structure, and self-respect is the reward. The more you master these three, the less you need from anyone else, because everything you need is already within you. Growth happens when you move in silence and let your results do the talking. The moment you stop seeking validation and start working quietly on your craft, your life begins to shift in ways that noise can't create. The truth is, the world doesn't need to know what you're doing. They need to see what you've done. Silence protects your vision from the opinions and doubts of others. It allows your ideas to breathe, evolve, and mature without interference. When you move in silence, you operate from clarity instead of ego. You stop making decisions to impress people and start making decisions that align with your purpose. The less you talk about your plans, the more energy you have to actually execute them. Words are cheap, but consistent action builds credibility that no speech can replace. People often underestimate the power of unseen work. They think success happens in the spotlight, but real transformation happens behind closed doors when no one's clapping, no one's watching, and no one's cheering you on. That's where discipline is tested. That's where character is built. When you focus on doing the work quietly, you create momentum that speaks for itself. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to prove anything. Results will always be your loudest response. The problem is that many people waste their potential by talking about what they are going to do instead of doing it. Every time you announce your plans prematurely, you give away energy that should be spent on execution. Moving in silence preserves that energy and turns it into progress. Silence also gives you power because it creates mystery. People can't predict your next move, and that unpredictability gives you control. When no one knows your process, no one can interfere with it. They can't discourage you, copy you, or sabotage what they don't see. Moving in silence is not about secrecy, it's about protection. You're guarding your growth from unnecessary noise, from distractions, from people who might not understand your journey. You're choosing peace over attention and focus over validation. And the truth is, real success doesn't need an audience to exist. The reward comes not from people's applause, but from your own progress. Every person who has achieved something great went through a season of quiet work, a time when they were unseen, unheard, and underestimated. That silence wasn't a setback, it was a setup. It was the foundation that made their results undeniable. When you're quiet, you can hear your intuition, you can listen to your instincts, You can feel your growth happening even when no one else notices it. You stop rushing for recognition and start trusting the process. That's how mastery is born, not from noise, but from focused repetition and relentless effort that no one else witnesses. Letting your results speak for you is the most powerful statement you can make. Because when you finally emerge, people won't remember what you said you were going to do. They'll see what you've done. Your work will have weight. Your actions will carry authority. You won't need to justify yourself because your success will be the proof. And when that happens, your silence will echo louder than words ever could. You'll realize that the quiet hours, the unseen sacrifices, the lonely nights, all of it was worth it. Because growth that happens in silence is growth that lasts. It's unshakable, undeniable, and unstoppable. That's the power of letting your results speak for you. Mastering emotional control is one of the most powerful skills you can ever develop. It separates the people who react from those who lead, the impulsive from the intentional, and the easily shaken from the unbreakable. When you learn to regulate your emotions, you become impossible to manipulate. No one can provoke you, distract you, or steer you off course because you've built a fortress within yourself. Emotional control doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop letting those feelings dictate your actions. You still experience anger, frustration, disappointment, or fear, but you manage them with awareness and strength instead of allowing them to take control. When you master this, you operate from logic, not impulse, and that gives you an undeniable edge in every area of life. The world is full of people who react. They hear something they don't like and they explode. Someone disrespects them and they immediately lash out. They get rejected and they lose focus. Every time you let someone pull an emotional reaction out of you, you're handing them your power. You're saying, "You control me." But the moment you decide to stay calm when chaos surrounds you, you reclaim that power. You learn that not every action deserves a reaction, and not every insult requires a defense. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You realize that silence is often the strongest response, because silence means you're centered, composed, and unshaken. That's strength most people will never understand. Emotional control is also about understanding timing. Not everything needs an immediate response. Sometimes, the most strategic move is to pause, reflect, and respond later, if at all. The person who can stay calm in heated moments holds the most influence because they think clearly while everyone else reacts emotionally. That's how leaders are made, not by shouting louder, but by staying composed longer. When you can look someone in the eye who's trying to trigger you and remain calm, you've already won. You've shown mastery over yourself, and self-mastery is the highest form of power. Achieving that level of control requires awareness and practice. You have to train your mind to pause before reacting, to analyze instead of absorb. You need to know your triggers, your weaknesses, and your patterns. The goal isn't to suppress emotion, it's to direct it. You can use anger as fuel for discipline, pain as motivation for growth, and disappointment as data for adjustment. Emotion is energy. Control determines where that energy flows. When you manage it well, you become unstoppable because you're no longer at the mercy of outside forces. You decide how you show up, how you respond, and how you move forward. When you respond less, you achieve more. Every time you choose composure over chaos, you preserve your focus. Every time you stay silent instead of defending yourself, you conserve energy for what actually matters. The truth is, the people who stay calm are the ones who win in the long run. Because while others are burning energy on reaction, you're channeling yours into progress. You're building, improving, and rising. Emotional control makes you resilient. It keeps you grounded when life throws challenges your way. You stop seeing setbacks as personal attacks and start viewing them as opportunities to grow stronger. Over time, you become unshakable. People notice it. They feel your steadiness. You stop being controlled by circumstances and start controlling outcomes. That's what emotional mastery does. It turns your silence, your patience, and your composure into your greatest source of power.